A master of combat approached the royal guard's unmoving stance with a sneer. And delivered a kick to his face. But no one expected the unexpected. Was this just a provocation, or a true challenge? And why didn't that guard move an inch? Why did he remain so calm? How did an icy gaze shatter the arrogance in Marcus's eyes? This encounter isn't just a fight, it's a story of history, a secret, a shock. This extraordinary event, unfolding in the heart of London, in front of Buckingham Palace, escalated the tension to its peak. The crowd held its breath, but the real surprise was yet to come. Power in silence. A past hidden behind what's seen. Sir Robert's single move changed everything. The dramatic turning point at the end of this encounter will astonish you. True warriors aren't on display, they're hidden in silence. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications to catch the incredible details in the rest of the video, because the next story will be even more shattering. In the heart of London, within the time-defying, granite walls of Buckingham Palace, a historical, sacred scene unfolds daily, watched by thousands of eyes. This is not just a palace, but also a silent, steadfast witness to an unshakable tradition, endless discipline, and an uncompromised duty. This magnificent structure, with every brick, carries the weight of centuries, the whispers of the past, and, defying the speed and noise of the modern world, breathes to its own rhythm, like an island outside of time. Its history is whispered in every corner, filled with age-old secrets and legends. These walls have witnessed countless events. And the most dazzling, iconic symbols of this tradition are, undoubtedly, the Royal Guards. They are not merely defined by the splendor of their uniforms, but by every stance, every breath, a living manifestation of centuries of honor, unwavering determination, and dedication to their country, like living statues. Every unmoving moment of theirs is like a part of a sacred ritual where time stands still. Stepping outside the rapid flow of the modern world, it's a challenge to every passing second. For many, they are just props for photos, a tourist attraction. They appear like stage accessories, like lifeless mannequins, thought to be soulless and emotionless. However, this is just the tip of the iceberg. The depths beneath are often overlooked. The profound meaning behind this noble stance can be easily misunderstood as weakness by outsiders, especially arrogant and prejudiced minds oblivious to the concept of respect. Sometimes, this situation transcends simple tourist curiosity, turning into an audacious impertinence, even outright aggression. In their eyes, an unmoving guard is an easy target, a subject of ridicule, like an emotionless robot, a piece of sculpture, an unresponsive entity, an easily harassed, provoked target. Such situations, regrettably, are frequently encountered, especially when outsiders, disrespecting local values, traditions, or even human dignity, belittle this profound cultural heritage with their shallow perceptions. For them, it's just a show, a circus, an entertainment. Precisely on such a day, a figure alien to London's unique fabric, representing a completely different world, a different value system, stepped onto the scene. Marcus Orion, known as the Destroyer, a boxing champion who had etched his name in gold in America's combat world, knocking out every opponent. Marcus, living by the rules of his own world, turning every victory into a loud spectacle, an egomaniac, a showman addicted to popularity. For him, every moment was raw material for new social media content that would explode, every interaction a victory, every like a title, every comment a brick in his kingdom, shining like a digital crown. By his side was an eager team, recording his every move second by second, chasing instant popularity. For them, this was merely an opportunity to shoot a new viral video, a show that would bring millions of views and thousands of comments, propelling their name onto the world stage, an easy path to fame and money. He had come to London for a major sporting event and, passing in front of the palace, he saw the Royal Guard standing like iron. Sir Robert Sterling. Every detail of his uniform was flawless. With his feathered hat, he was like a sculpture, as if he had stepped out of a painting, a living work of art, standing there with all his nobility. But this was not a statue, this was a breathing, thinking, feeling soldier, whose every emotion was dedicated to his duty, with nerves of steel. With the elegance of an English gentleman, as if beyond time and space, he remained motionless. The impassive gaze in Sir Robert's eyes actually reflected a mind closed off to the outside world, yet filled with complete duty internally. His every breath, the tension of every muscle, was the silent expression of a thousand-year legacy and a sacred oath, a concrete manifestation of patriotism, of sacrifice, a tangible monument of selflessness. He was not just an individual, but the honor of a nation, a living history, a principle, an oath. A mocking spark gleamed in Marcus's eyes, like a diabolical glint, like the eyes of an opportunist. To him, this disciplined stance was weakness. It was a challenge, an easy target, a subject for ridicule, a tool for popularity. It was an unmissable opportunity for a showman, a ticket to a new peak in his career, a way to gain more attention, perhaps even a new signature move. He pulled out his phone, signaled his team. "Start recording." At that moment, Marcus's mind was only on the beginning of a show, a performance. He didn't know that this would be the greatest lesson of his life, a test where his pride would be deeply shaken, his arrogance shattered, a trial he would face before the eyes of the whole world. The crowd had already begun to gather slowly around them. People from different cultures, with different expectations, took their places to witness this impromptu spectacle. Among them were some groups, particularly prejudiced against the guards, viewing them as mere ornaments. Unfortunately, such situations can escalate beyond a simple joke, turning into mockery, and sometimes even physical aggression. Prejudices against authority figures and representatives of order can trigger such reckless behavior. However, figures like Sir Robert silently dispelled these prejudiced views with their steadfast posture, demonstrating what true strength is, and how honor and respect act as a shield. Their presence was not just a guarding duty, but a representation of a nation's character and honor, a symbol of resistance, a whisper against all the noise of the age, a silent scream. This stance was a symbol of resistance against the shifting values of the modern world, a whisper of centuries of honor, a way of life, a sacred oath. Marcus walked towards Sir Robert, his steps like the sound of a hammer striking the ground, each step shaking London's historic cobblestones, as if his ego also rose with each step, approaching like the footsteps of a storm, confident and proud, like the sole star of the stage. With each step, his ego climbed higher, seeing himself superior to this ornamental soldier, this robot, this emotionless mannequin, like a mocking god holding a puppet. The crowd watched them with curious eyes. Some recognized Marcus, while others tried to understand what this situation would evolve into, a different expression on each face, curiosity, astonishment, excitement, even for some, worry and discomfort. Everyone held their breath, as if watching a staged play, but this was a play that would not end well, a humiliating game where a real lesson would be taught, a tragedy. The tension in the air increased with each passing second. There was an electric charge, like the silence before a storm. Marcus stood directly in front of Sir Robert, heedlessly disregarding the distance, as if trespassing into his personal space, invading his privacy, disrespectful, audacious. He turned to the camera, an arrogant smirk on his face, the sharpest form of mockery in his eyes, like a serpent's gaze. "Look at this, is this security? These refrigerator guys would be knocked down with one punch in a real fight. What, are they scared? Maybe their immobility shows they have nowhere to run. Here's the Royal Guard for you. He can't do anything, he just stands. Just a mannequin. Come on, make a move and let's see what's behind that uniform. Maybe they're empty inside, who knows? Maybe they don't even breathe." His words caused a whisper among the crowd, echoing off the palace walls, with a disturbing, reckless tone. Some tourists were astonished by this audacity, while others watched as if amused, filming with their cell phones, as if watching a show, chasing sensation, as if expecting a gladiatorial fight, smelling blood. Especially a high-energy group of young people of African descent, admiring Marcus, applauded him, shouting, "Come on man, show them who you are. Smash them. They're just robots. Come on, show them America's power. Destroy them. Let the show begin." Their voices grew louder, turning into a cheer, like a rock concert. Their reactions, unfortunately, once again exposed the disrespect towards authority, prejudice, and tendency to disregard rules prevalent in some segments. This was an attack not just on an individual, but on all the values he represented, a nation's dignity, discipline, and history, a wholesale insult. But Sir Robert's stance did not change a single bit. His eyes seemed fixed on a non-existent point, as if nothing in this world could deter him from his duty, his oath, his noble stance, his unshakable will, his honor. His silence was the sharpest answer to all this noise, all this disrespect. Like tranquility in the midst of a storm, he stood like an unshakable rock, like his Zen master, despite all provocations. Marcus frowned, his patience exhausted, as if the volcano inside him was about to erupt. This unresponsiveness drove him crazy. He was losing his mind, completely out of control. A primal rage consumed him, his eyes were bloodshot. The astonishment, fear, or at least a blink he expected had not come. To provoke him further, he approached, even trying to reach out and touch Sir Robert's uniform, an extremely reckless, impertinent move, as if crossing a line. This stance of yours would take you to your grave in a real fight. Come on, make a move and let's see your strength. Or will your nice uniform get dirty? What, are you scared, little soldier? Speak up. At least make a sound. Maybe you can't speak, can you? That's why you're silent. Or are you just a show object? Do you look like a toy? Come on, let's see, let's see. His words caused an even more intense whisper among the crowd, echoing off the palace walls, with a disturbing, provocative tone. Marcus raised his hand, as if putting on a grand show, wanting to draw all attention to himself. With the air of a stage star, he would amplify his show even more. In your frozen state, if you got into a street fight, they'd tear you to pieces. Come on, react. Or are you scared? Look, the crowd is watching you. They're wondering if this silence is from fear or helplessness. Let the show begin. It starts now. His voice grew louder, echoing off the palace walls, bouncing off the historic stones, a piercing, provocative, hateful tone. The nearby group became even more enthusiastic, accompanying Marcus like a chorus, their cheers intensifying, each shout like a knife. Some laughed mockingly, while others pointed fingers at Sir Robert, going even further in their provocations, pushing boundaries, fueling the fire. These moments were not just a display of brute force, but also a clash of values and respect, an attempt to trample a nation's honor, a civilization's test. The guard's disciplined stance stood firm against all these provocations like armor. His shield was not just his uniform, but also the noble belief in his soul, the weight of a centuries-old tradition, an unshakable will, a determination, an oath. And then, that chilling, ice-cold moment came. Marcus, with one last burst of fury, with all his might, and the precision of a professional boxer, delivered a direct punch to Sir Robert's face. This time he didn't stop, it landed squarely, the sound echoed, a sharp, bone-chilling thud, like a slap to the face of the whole world. The guard's feathered hat flew in a dramatic arc through the air, as if symbolizing pride falling from the sky, and landed silently on the ground, like a lesson, left to its own fate. A short, muffled ah rose from the crowd, followed by complete silence. Everything had stopped, even time seemed to slow down, a momentary pause, as if the world held its breath, expecting a miracle. Everyone was frozen, as if their breath had been cut off, their eyes locked on this incredible moment, looking with astonishment and wonder, trying to understand what had happened, unable to believe it. Marcus smirked triumphantly, the ugliest form of arrogance on his face, his eyes blinded by the dazzling light of momentary victory, as if he was blind, unable to see the truth. There was no fear, panic, or anger he expected. Only a cold, composed clarity. A thin trail of blood trickled down his face, like a crimson line on an iceberg, yet Sir Robert did not move an inch. His stance was still upright, as if nothing had happened, no wind had blown, not even a leaf had stirred, like a rock, unshakable, indestructible. The expression in his eyes was a gaze that pierced Marcus's soul, making him question everything, shaking his entire being, transforming him fundamentally. At that moment, Marcus realized he had never felt so small, so insignificant in his life. He fully understood this, he felt like nothing, as if he had fallen into an abyss. Soon, the composed clarity on Sir Robert's face transformed into that of a predator locking onto its prey. This was not a robot's reaction, this was a hunter's instinct, a warrior's reflexes, the result of years of experience, thousands of hours of training, countless dangers, like a perfect mechanism. His eyes seemed to read Marcus's soul, as if he saw and weighed all his weaknesses, all his arrogance in a single glance, stripping everything bare, piercing his soul, penetrating his being. And then, not the clumsy reaction of a ceremonial figure as Marcus expected, but instead, like a hurricane in the midst of a storm, he moved with astonishing agility and precision. This was not a dance, not a show, this was a reflection of years of military training, countless operations, and a sense of duty, as if in seconds he was revealing all his experience, all his power, a perfect move, like steel, a lightning strike. All of Marcus's training, all his ring experience, all his muscle power, was useless at that moment, scattered into emptiness, becoming nothing, meaningless. Sir Robert, with a single determined, precise, and measured movement, brought him to the ground. At that moment, the tower of arrogance Marcus had built for years collapsed with a single blow, all his victories became meaningless, all his applause in vain, it crumbled like a house of cards, leaving behind only astonishment and a lesson, a bitter truth, a lesson. The crowd stood frozen, as if time had stopped, everyone's breath held. Marcus Orion, The champion known as the Destroyer, a world-renowned fighter, had been knocked to the ground in one of London's busiest streets by a royal guard. This was a sight no one expected, a lesson, a slap in the face for everyone, an awakening. Astonishment and curiosity combined, but this astonishment gradually gave way to deep respect. No one could have predicted such strength and skill within this silent, statue-like man. This was not just a fight, but a clash of values, the bowing of arrogance before humility, the most striking example of how deceptive outward appearances can be, an epic moment. Just then, a retired colonel, James MacDonald, walked forward from the crowd. Even his suit could not hide the military discipline in his posture. Every movement carried the demeanor of a commander, a wisdom, a gravitas born of years, a posture. A serious expression was on his face, in his eyes, the experience of years, the wisdom of lived experiences could be read, as if history itself was speaking, like the memory of a nation, the voice of the past. He looked at Marcus, sprawled on the ground, astonished and writhing in shame, then at Sir Robert, standing tall, with a salute of respect, with pride, with admiration. "I believe you just received a practical education on the difference between performing and experiencing combat, Marcus Orion." His voice echoed, these words like a sermon, a warning, a lesson, worthy of being remembered, a memorable phrase, unforgettable. These words instantly summarized the situation, revealing how wrong Marcus was with a single sentence, a cruel truth, in all its nakedness, an undeniable truth, a bitter enlightenment. MacDonald turned to the crowd, his voice rising, as if giving a lecture, as the voice of history and truth, every word carrying great weight, full of emotion, like a manifesto, a call. "This guard, Sir Robert Sterling," he began. "He is not just a ceremonial soldier. He is the heart of a nation, the guardian of a legacy. Before becoming a royal guard, he served in our country's most dangerous, most secret operations, one of the most distinguished members of the Special Reconnaissance Unit. He is a true warrior, a survival expert, a hero, who has proven himself countless times in the toughest terrains, behind enemy lines, where death roamed, in the most challenging missions. Every step he takes carries the glory of his unit, every breath the soul of his homeland. He is not just a uniform, but a living monument, an embodiment of heroism, an edifice of courage." A deep murmur rose from the crowd, whispers were heard, faces showed a mixture of astonishment and admiration, as if they were experiencing an enlightenment, seeing the truth, an admiration mixed with shame. There was a moment of silence, then a respectful murmur and even some applause, this time louder, more heartfelt, from the entire crowd, applause from the heart, well deserved. Even the group that had supported Marcus earlier, showing mocking attitudes, fell silent in the face of these truths. Their faces showed astonishment and a bit of shame. They were ashamed of their prejudices, their ignorance, their faces flushed. "He participated in 4 different military operations," MacDonald continued, his voice growing stronger, like a commander's voice, full of authority, every word carried certainty, like a command. He maintained his composure even in moments when he came face to face with death, when bullets flew in the air, when bombs exploded, when his friends were martyred before his eyes. He remained at his post, with an unshakable will, nerves of steel, not like a robot, but like a hero. Twice, he was awarded the highest grade special service decorations for his superior courage and extraordinary service to his country. These awards are a testament not only to his physical strength, but also to his mental resilience, moral fortitude, and unshakable character, his selflessness and sacrifice. Each of his decorations is proof of the sweat shed, the effort given, the courage shown, and the blood spilled, a medal of honor, a symbol of a legacy. "The discipline here, that unshakable stance you see," MacDonald continued, gesturing towards Sir Robert, as if holding him up as an example, like a statue, an edifice, is an extension of his effectiveness, composure, and determination in a real combat environment. He is not just a ceremonial figure, but a warrior, a hero, a symbol, a living legend, a principle, a patriot, a guardian spirit of a nation. That insignificant blow to his face is just a mosquito bite compared to the moments he experienced the horror of real explosions, an unimportant pain, not even worth noting. It's nothing. These people, contrary to their appearance, consist of their country's most elite soldiers. To disrespect them is to disrespect not only yourself, but also a nation's values, history, heroes, and dedicated children. Every motionless moment of theirs is actually a lesson that speaks more than thousands of words, a manifest of honor, the very identity of a nation. This stance reminds us every day how valuable respect is. It's like a silent monument, a cautionary tale. These words struck Marcus like lightning. As if an explosion of light occurred in his brain, all his prejudices were crumbling one by one. The darkness within him was illuminated, with a blinding light, like a revelation. His eyes welled up, as if his soul was cleansed, the darkness within him dissipated, regret consumed his entire being, tears streamed down his cheeks, like a silent sob, a pang of conscience. At that moment, he realized how meaningless, how empty all the victories, all the titles, all the applause he had tasted in his career were. His arrogance, his self-admiration, had suddenly become nothing, like a giant balloon deflated, his insides empty, his soul naked, helpless. The thin streak of blood on Sir Robert's face was like the bleeding wound of his own pride, reminding him of his own mistake, his own smallness, his own ignorance, with a bitter lesson, like an unforgettable wound, a mark he would carry forever. He understood that true strength did not lie in devastating punches, but in unwavering determination, honor, and dedication to duty. This was a turning point for him, the greatest awakening of his life, a moment of rebirth, an atonement. Marcus slowly knelt, his knees trembling, unable to control his body. He bowed his head, flushed with shame, his face looking at the ground, as if he didn't want to get up, as if the whole world had crashed down on him. He was crushed under its weight, suffering with every breath. He reached for the fallen hat with trembling hands, respectfully, as if it were a sacred relic. With great reverence, he placed it before Sir Robert, as if offering a sacrifice. There was shame and regret on his face, like a child who had just understood his mistakes, a child who had received a great lesson at that moment, his eyes full of tears, tearful. This moment was Marcus's greatest test in life, perhaps the toughest struggle of his career, far beyond what he had experienced in the ring, a spiritual battle, a moment where he confronted his own shadows, wrestled with himself. The moment his pride was shattered, his arrogance pulverized, his ego shattered, completely broken. It was the threshold of rising from the ashes, the beginning of a transformation. "I'm sorry. I understand now what real strength is," he whispered, his voice trembling, words caught in his throat, barely coming out, like a confession, a cry for salvation, a surrender, a plea for forgiveness. This was a confession for him, a surrender, and also a beginning. A new chapter was opening in his life, a brand new section, a completely different identity, a self. Sir Robert looked at the kneeling, humble Marcus. There was no anger or triumph in his eyes. Only that familiar, calm yet shattering clarity. The thin trail of blood on his face seemed to show how insignificant, how ordinary he found this incident, as if he had experienced so much more before, seen so much greater pain, overcome so much tougher trials. For him it was just a small scratch, like a mosquito bite. For one who has experienced the horror of real explosions, a blow to the face is merely an insignificant sting. His voice echoed through the crowd of London, like a textbook sentence, a saying to be remembered for centuries, passed down from generation to generation, a life philosophy, a wisdom. These words were not just a simple reaction to a punch. This was an eternal explanation, a life lesson, a philosophy lesson that pierced his soul and shook his being, explaining how small Marcus's own victories were in the face of life's real difficulties, real losses, and real sacrifices. These words, with every syllable, cried out that true heroism lies not in showmanship, but in the depth of inner strength and honor. Sir Robert's silence was his greatest weapon, a tranquility that silenced all noise, rendered all challenges futile, and completely demolished all recklessness, a devastating silence. Marcus nodded, his eyes on the ground, still struggling to believe. Was this a dream, reality, an illusion, a hallucination? At that moment, he had learned a real lesson beyond everything he had won in the ring, a lesson that would change the meaning of his life, give him a new direction, make him a completely different person. For a moment, one of Marcus's team members reached out, signaling him to stop filming. He didn't want these humiliating moments to be recorded. Their image would be damaged, their popularity would drop, they would lose sponsors, their careers would be in jeopardy. But Marcus lowered his hand, nodded, continued to his team. He knew this moment was a lesson that needed to be shown to the whole world. This was not a moment of shame for him, but a moment of enlightenment, an awakening, a rebirth, an atonement, a cautionary tale, a call. Perhaps this would be the turning point of his life. He would transform from just a fighter into a person with a deeper character, a wiser person, a true hero, a role model, a source of inspiration. The fallen hat lay there not as a symbol of victory, but of a lesson. It was a harbinger of the end of an era, a new beginning, a sacred relic. That hat represented the honor and discipline of a nation, and that day, that hat became the silent witness to a lesson in pride, forever remembered as a moment to learn from, like a warning, a message to future generations. That day, in the heart of London, where the heart of history beats, a boxing champion suffered the greatest defeat of his life, from a silent hero. But this defeat was also his greatest victory, because it brought him back to his true self, cleansed him of arrogance, set him on a new path, liberated his soul. Because that day, Marcus Orion learned that true strength does not lie in visible muscles, shows, or titles. True strength lies in discipline, honor, dignity, respect, and most importantly, in unwavering commitment to duty. This lesson was more valuable than thousands of victories won in the ring, a life lesson, a soul lesson, a philosophy that would last a lifetime, a wisdom lesson. This was a lasting legacy, a new beginning for him, a new philosophy of life, a way of being. The Royal Guards. They are not just ceremonial figures. They are embodiments of true strength and honor, with their unshakable stance even in the most difficult moments, their dedication to their homeland and their duties. Every motionless stance of theirs is actually a reflection of a silent lesson given against disrespect, mockery, and arrogance, a manifesto of resistance. This story reminds us once again how deceptive outward appearances can be, and that true value lies in deep-seated character, inner strength, and selflessness. Arrogance and prejudices often mislead us and put us in humiliating situations. Therefore, we should always approach different cultures, different traditions, and different disciplines with respect, understanding, and humility. Because we can never know where knowledge and true power are hidden. Sometimes, behind the quietest stances, the greatest heroism is concealed, the deepest wisdom lies. Perhaps in your life, too, a seemingly ordinary figure from the outside can give you the most important lesson of your life, provided your eyes and heart are open, provided you know how to listen. If this story deeply affected you too, don't forget to like our video and subscribe to our channel. Click the bell so you can be notified of our real stories and inspiring lessons. Remember, true power is not about destroying others, but about holding fast to your own values. Share this story so this important lesson can reach more people and true values are never forgotten. Thank you for watching. See you in our next impactful story. Life always offers us new lessons, if only we know how to see them, if only our hearts and minds are open. True heroes may not always be in plain sight, but their legacy lives on forever, silently and deeply.